Access granted.
Did you know you are exposing yourself to the risk of getting diabetes when you have high sugar intake in daily diet? Diabetes mellitus is the most common endocrine disorder of carbohydrate metabolism. Worldwide, it is a leading cause of morbidity and mortality and a major health problem for most developed societies. The prevalence of diabetes continues to increase. Previously, testing of blood sugar level was a tedious process, but nowadays glucose biosensors have evolved to be more reliable, rapid, and accurate, and are also more compact and easy to use. Thanks to Leland C. Clark, he was the first one who invented Clark electrode, a device used for determining the amount of glucose rapidly. The history of biosensor began in 1962, when Clark and Andion from Cincinnati Children's Hospital developed the first glucose enzyme electron. Basic principle of this biosensor was based on a thin layer of glucose oxidase on oxygen electrode. Thus, the readout was the amount of oxygen consumed by glucose oxidase during the enzymatic reaction with the substrate glucose. Today, many people, especially diabetic patients, rely on Clark's original glucose sensor concept for self-monitoring. So what is biosensor? Biosensor is a device that involves incorporation of bioactive material with transducing element for detecting concentration or activity of analyte present in the sample. Components of biosensor consist of biological component, transducer, and signal detector. Biological component is a component used to interact specifically with a target compound, such as microorganism, tissue, cell, organelle, nucleic acid, enzyme, and antibody. While transducer act as interface that measuring physical change that occur with reaction at bioreceptor, then transforming that energy into measurable electrical output. Then, the signal from transducer are passed to a microprocessor where they are amplified and analyzed. The data is then converted and is displayed on monitor. First generation glucose biosensor rely on the use of non-natural oxygen co-substrate and generation and detection of hydrogen peroxide. In first generation glucose biosensor, the oxidase form of flavin group in glucose oxidase is reduced by a reaction with glucose. This gives rise to the formation of the reduced flavin group and gluconolactone. After that, the reduced flavin group reacts with oxygen to regenerate oxidase form of glucose oxidase. At the same time, hydrogen peroxide is produced at the anode. The hydrogen peroxide is then oxidized to oxygen and release electron. The electron release will move from anode to cathode and a readable signal is produced. Measurements are commonly carried out on a platinum electrode at a moderate anodic potential of around positive 0.6 volt. The advantages include the measurements of peroxide is relatively simple and applicable in miniaturized device. However, the performance of first generation glucose biosensor is restricted by electroactive interference and its dependence on oxygen. In terms of electroactive interference, the measurements of hydrogen peroxide require relatively high potential. This encourages the oxidation of other endogenous reducing species such as ascorbic acid, uric acid, and some drugs in biological fluids. Also will affect sensitivity and overall accuracy of measurement. In terms of oxygen dependence, fluctuation in oxygen tension, and stoichiometric limitation of oxygen or oxygen deficit. This limitation could be solved by using pump-selective coating on electrode, which could minimize the access of oxidizable constituent toward the electrode surface. The performance of glucose biosensor also could be improved by tuning the operating potential to the optimal region. To solve the problem of oxygen dependence, mass transport limiting films is used to tailor the flux of glucose and oxygen by increasing the oxygen or glucose permeability ratio. Apart from that, oxygen-rich carbon-based enzyme electrodes are also employed to increase the oxygen solubility. The limitation of the first generation glucose biosensor were overcome by using mediated glucose. Examples of mediator that can be used such as ferrocene, ferricyanide, quinine, and thionine. Usage of redox mediator eliminates the need of oxygen for electron transfer at electrode surface, thus overcoming the limited oxygen pressure observed in first generation. A reduced mediator is formed instead of hydrogen peroxide and then reoxidized at the electrode, providing an amperometric signal and regenerating the oxidized form of the mediator. Ferrocene fit all criteria for a good mediator: not reacting with oxygen, stable in both the oxidized, reduced form, independent of pH, showing reversible electron transfer kinetic, and reacting rapidly with the enzyme. Glucose from the solution diffused to the surface of enzyme. Glucose oxidase in oxidized form is reduced. At the same time, glucose is converted to gluconic acid. Further oxidation of mediator at electrode surface occur and electrons are released. The movement of electrons from anode to cathode generates signal. Advantages of second generation of glucose biosensor: low redox potential, which helps in avoiding interfering current from coexisting electroactive species leading to false measurements. Their low molecular weight and insoluble nature, which allow them to effectively diffuse without completing. However, there are major drawbacks of using mediator in second generation glucose biosensor. High competition between synthetic mediator and oxygen. Interference. Stability of synthetic mediator near electrode surface. The concept of third generation of biosensor are based on development of reagentless glucose biosensor, direct transfer of electron from glucose to the electrode via active site of enzyme, and with low operating potential, which close to the redox potential of the enzyme. Advantages: high selectivity owing to the elimination of mediator, lead to the development of implantable needle-type devices which enable continuous in vivo monitoring. Challenges or limitation of conventional electrode. Glucose oxidase does not directly transfer electrons to conventional electrode because of a thick protein layer surrounding its FAD redox center as an intrinsic barrier. Improvements: exploration of new electrode material by conducting organic salt electrode based on charge transfer complex.